Hello, and welcome. Before we begin, a brief disclaimer. This video is intended for educational and analytical purposes only. It does not promote any political ideology, party, or individual. All information presented is based on publicly available sources. Today, we are examining the presidency of Donald J. Trump, one of the most influential and controversial figures in modern American history. Donald Trump became the 45th President of the United States in January 2017. He entered office as a political outsider with a background in business rather than government or military service. His career included decades of real estate development, television production, and personal branding. Throughout this time, Trump cultivated a public persona centered on negotiation, deal-making, and media visibility. His election represented a significant break from traditional political norms and reflected a widespread desire among voters for unconventional leadership. Many citizens expressed frustration with traditional political institutions, bureaucracy, and the pace of legislative progress. Trump's presidency was framed by the slogan "America First," which emphasized national sovereignty, economic growth, and security. This platform prioritized policies that aimed to strengthen domestic manufacturing, reduce dependence on foreign trade, and reform immigration. Supporters argued that this approach was necessary to correct systemic imbalances and revitalize the American economy. Critics, however, viewed it as destabilizing and potentially harmful to long-standing alliances, international agreements, and democratic norms. Economically, the Trump administration focused on tax reform and deregulation. In 2017, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act reduced corporate tax rates from 35% to 21% and lowered taxes for many individuals. This policy aimed to stimulate investment, encourage business expansion, and create jobs. Prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, unemployment rates reached historically low levels, including significant declines among minority populations. Economic growth remained relatively stable, and consumer confidence increased in several sectors. Critics, however, noted that these policies disproportionately favored corporations and wealthy individuals, contributed to a growing federal deficit, and did not address long-term structural economic challenges. Deregulation was another central pillar of Trump's domestic agenda. Environmental, financial, and industrial regulations were rolled back in order to reduce costs for businesses. Proponents argued that these measures increased efficiency, reduced bureaucratic hurdles, and strengthened the competitiveness of American firms on a global scale. For example, energy production expanded as restrictions on drilling and mining were eased. Financial institutions faced fewer constraints under adjusted Dodd-Frank regulations. At the same time, critics warned that these changes could create long-term risks for public health, environmental sustainability, and consumer protection. In foreign policy, Trump pursued a transactional and unconventional approach. He frequently questioned the value of traditional alliances such as NATO and used direct negotiation tactics or economic leverage to achieve objectives. The United States withdrew from several international agreements, including the Paris Climate Accord and the Iran nuclear deal. While these moves were intended to prioritize American interests, they sparked debate regarding U.S. credibility and global leadership. Despite this, the administration achieved significant diplomatic milestones, most notably the Abraham Accords. These agreements normalized relations between Israel and several Arab nations, including the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain. This accomplishment was widely regarded as historic, opening new opportunities for trade, security cooperation, and diplomatic engagement in the Middle East. Trade policy, particularly concerning China, was a major focus during Trump's tenure. The administration imposed tariffs on hundreds of billions of dollars of Chinese imports, aiming to protect domestic manufacturing and reduce trade imbalances. While certain industries benefited from these measures, retaliatory tariffs increased costs for farmers, manufacturers, and consumers. Supply chains were disrupted, and the global trade environment became more uncertain. Economists continued to debate the overall effectiveness of these policies, noting that gains in some sectors were offset by broader economic costs. Immigration policy became one of the most controversial aspects of Trump's administration. Measures included stricter border enforcement, expansion of the border wall, more rigorous visa screening, and reduced refugee admissions. The administration's zero-tolerance approach led to family separations at the border, which generated extensive public criticism from human rights organizations and international observers. Proponents argued these steps were necessary for national security, law enforcement, and upholding immigration law, while critics highlighted ethical and humanitarian concerns. Trump also had a lasting impact on the judicial system. During his presidency, he appointed over 200 federal judges and 3 Supreme Court justices, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Barrett Coney. These appointments have significantly shaped the ideological composition of the federal judiciary, influencing decisions on issues ranging from abortion and health care to environmental regulations and executive power. This reshaping of the judiciary ensures that Trump's influence on American law will persist for decades, affecting both high-profile cases and everyday legal precedent. The COVID-19 pandemic presented unprecedented challenges during the final year of Trump's first term. Operation Warp Speed was launched to accelerate the development, production, and distribution of vaccines. This initiative involved collaboration between government agencies and private pharmaceutical companies, resulting in several vaccines reaching the public in record time. While the logistics of vaccine development were largely successful, public communication, guidance, and messaging were criticized by experts and media outlets, contributing to confusion and controversy during the pandemic. The 2020 presidential election and its aftermath marked a period of intense political polarization. Trump contested the election results, citing allegations of voter fraud and irregularities. Numerous lawsuits were filed, examined, and largely dismissed by courts. This period led to heightened tension in the political landscape, raising concerns about democratic norms, election integrity, and the peaceful transfer of power. The events surrounding the certification of the election results, including the January 6th incident at the U.S. Capitol, remain subjects of extensive public, academic, and legal analysis. In addition to political and economic actions, Trump's presidency had significant cultural and social impact. His direct style of communication, often through social media, reshaped political discourse and public expectations of presidential engagement. Issues like immigration, trade, healthcare, and economic policy became central topics in media, academia, and public debate. The polarization that emerged during his tenure continues to influence political parties, media narratives, and public opinion. Trump's leadership style was characterized by assertiveness, unpredictability, and emphasis on loyalty to his inner circle. Decision-making often prioritized short-term policy victories and base support, while institutional norms and bipartisan compromise were sometimes challenged. This approach generated intense support and sharp criticism, illustrating the complexity of evaluating presidential effectiveness and legacy. In summary, Donald Trump's presidency was defined by ambitious economic initiatives, including tax reform and deregulation, significant influence on the judiciary and federal courts, unconventional foreign and trade strategies, highly controversial immigration and social policies, unprecedented engagement with media and public communication. His presidency reshaped American political discourse, affected international relations, and left enduring impacts on domestic institutions. Understanding Trump's leadership provides insight into modern governance, policymaking, and the intersection of personality, media, and politics in shaping national outcomes. Thank you for watching. This channel exists to analyze leadership decisions through data and historical outcomes, not to persuade. All content presented here is educational, factual, and based on publicly available information.